Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, December the 7th. And as we like to do on Sundays, just about every Sunday, we'll be chatting today with our good friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. George, welcome. What looks to be the couple more Sundays, and we'll put this year away. So it's been a very fast year. I don't know about you, but it's been
It has.
going.
They get faster every year.
They sure do. They sure do. They get very fast every year. But this Sunday, of course, December 7th, is the 84th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And even though it's becoming more and more difficult to have any veterans of that day around, simply 84 years. I mean, even if you were 20 years old that day, you're 104 now. So very unlikely that you would be with us. But it is clearly an important day. And one of the interesting experiences that I had a few years ago, today is also the 10th anniversary of the passing of my father. And before he passed away, I mean, obviously, nobody knew that he would be dying on this famous day. But I asked him some questions about what it was like back then to, what it was like in 1941 when he was 15 years old. And he was telling me that people kind of expected the war, and they weren't totally surprised that Japan got into the war because Japan was running around pretty much all over the Pacific, and there were some fears that they may attack the United States, although not the way they did it or whatever. But it wasn't like the world was in shock that Japan attacked the United States because the fleet was moving in the Pacific. We just didn't realize that they moved to Hawaii when they did. But nevertheless, he said that some people were not exactly shocked that Japan went to war with the United States, George.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I've heard it from. I had an uncle that served in the war, and my mother had a cousin that was killed shortly after it started in Bataan. It took my parents a long time to ever get into a Japanese car. I mean, that's how strong
Really?
it felt. I mean, I of course thought it was very silly, but no, that's how strong they felt. I know from history and from talking to older folks that the expectation was there. I think what all of them really always said to me that was that was very much the thing that irked them was that Japan was in the process of having peace talks in Washington when the attack happened.
Right.
That seems to have been the point. I mean, the expectation was there, like you said, that eventually there would be a war with them. But for that to begin the way that it did while they were in the process of having peace talks, I think that's what really, really irked everybody.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about that, if anybody has ever seen that movie Tora Tora Tora,
Mm-hmm.
they show that, and that's a great movie, by the way. That movie came out in the early '70s. I remember when it came out, and I try to see it as much as I can. I didn't have a chance to watch it this year, but every year, they show it frequently, particularly on this day. And I always enjoy watching that movie because it's a very serious movie. I mean, and you really
Very well
see
documented. Very well documented.
yeah, and you really see the war from a different perspective. It's not like the other Pearl Harbor movie that came out, I guess, about 20 years ago. That was kind of a romantic flick.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of a romantic, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it can't be serious all the time. But I thought Tora 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 was really an interesting movie to watch. But anyway, 84 years today, the anniversary of
That's
Pearl
long.
Harbor. And as I said, most of obviously the principles are all gone. And the impact that had on the United States, I mean, you had as late as President Bush 41, pretty much from General
Fought in the
Eisenhower
war.
to President Bush 41, every one of those men who was in the White House during that time had served in World War II. So
Well,
it had an
I think
impact.
Clinton was the first one, and I'm not sure that we've had anyone since then.
No, and that's insane because Clinton was born in 1946, so he was actually born after the war, and Bush too. Bush 40. Actually, I think if you look at those men, Clinton, Bush, uh, Obama,
They're all baby
Trump,
boomers.
they were all born after the war. I mean, certainly. So anyway, it was just a fascinating thing to realize what an impact it had on the country, and certainly the
You know,
presidential.
what really shocked me today
Yeah,
was the lack of acknowledgement of the event. I was
yeah,
really surprised that there was very little acknowledgement. I mean, I didn't hear anything on several radio stations, news stations, and I did hear a briefing, a very brief comment on a couple of them. But I was surprised. I mean, when I was growing up, I remember,
oh
uh,
yeah.
yeah, it was a very somber Memorial Day.
That's right. I think the last time that I remember that there was a major celebration, George, was 1991, or what would have been the 50th anniversary. And that was made special by the fact that President Bush,
Right.
who was a veteran, went to the ceremony, to the anniversary ceremony. And of course, with President Reagan, when it was the 40th, I guess, in 81. So I think look, and I'm not knocking people, but these things happen, as time passes, these anniversaries, it's just like the Kennedy assassination. I mean, look, they mentioned it this year, but I remember the 50th anniversary here in Dallas. There was a big deal back in 2013. But I think as time passes, these anniversaries become more historical footnotes than emotional things. But it's always important to remember Pearl Harbor because of the impact that it had
Yes.
in the 20th century. And that was the moment, really, George, that the United States went from being a big country to being really the number one country in the world. I mean, that was the moment that it changed. Well, anyway, our memories, at least on I wrote a bunch of different posts today about World War. I mean, Pearl Harbor, including a podcast that I did. I posted this over at X, a podcast that I did with my friend Barry Jacobson, who's a military historian. He and I did several World War II podcasts, and I posted that one over at X. I would recommend it to everybody to check it out. I also put it on the Facebook page where these videos will come up later today. Well, let's come to Texas for a second, George, because there's some big news today. I think tonight we can really do a full Texas report because everything we're going to talk about tonight has to do with Texas, beginning with the Supreme Court basically saying, okay, you can do the maps. You can keep the maps. I was not surprised, George. I always thought these maps were very well done. They took into account every little objection that was going to come up. And I have to give credit here to the Attorney General Paxton on this one, and to Governor Abbott, too, who was Attorney General before. These guys know exactly what the objections are going to be. And it's like they prepare whatever they do. They know what the objections are going to be, and they've got the defense for the objections. So I got to give credit here to the Attorney General for knowing exactly what they were going to come up with at the Supreme Court and have an answer ready. But if I can just say one quick thing, George, before I hear your point of view here, I think what the Supreme Court basically said was, look, you guys worry about your own maps. Don't come to us and have us do your maps. This is your business in Texas. You do the maps, and you take care of the maps, and don't come to us saying, hey, do the map for us. No. This is your business. You do it. And if you've got a beef, settle it in your state courts, because we've got other more important things to look at. That's what I think the Supreme Court said. And that's the message that it sent out to every other state, quite a few of them who are going to redo their maps as well, George.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a state's issue. It has always been a state's issue. The issue of voting has always been a state issue. And it's only been since the 1960s, the civil rights movement, that the federal government has intervened. And I would say in many cases, it over-intervened. And
Yes.
what we've got at this point is now two entire generations of liberals who expect the government daddy to change things when in actuality there's no need to. The duly elected, we've got to remember that the duly elected legislature of Texas, a legislature which is already mandated and controlled by the Civil Rights Act, that a duly mandated legislature took duly legislation, and that legislation is the will of the people because it is done by a duly elected legislature. And so for them, for liberals, Democrats to scream to high heaven like they are, I mean, all it is just it makes no sense, and it's not constitutional. And this is the thing that really they get. I heard two of the talking heads this morning on NBC and on CBS actually saying that this is why we've got to get rid of the Constitution. Now
That's
again,
nice. Let's get rid of the Constitution because we don't like the opinions, right?
that, and that is incredible to me that these people, one of them kept using the term fundamentally change America, that America is not going to be fundamentally changed until the Constitution is either changed or gotten rid of. What do they mean by fundamentally change? I mean,
Right.
that sounds like something the Khmer Rouge might say. It is incredible. So it is wonderful. I expected it. If the Supreme Court was gonna follow the Constitution, I figured that this was going to happen, and I'm very, very happy.
I am too. I thought it was. I was expecting it, but you never know until you get it.
Yeah, right.
But I was expecting it because I felt it was the right thing to do. This is a state matter. And I've always felt that, all of these liberals who come on TV who are so angry at the Texas maps, where were these people when 14 out of 17 districts in Illinois are Democrats?
Exactly.
Where are they when there's not a single district in Massachusetts that goes to a Republican, even though the Republicans will get 40% of the vote in the state? So, I mean, look, if you're going to say that Texas drew a map to favor the Republicans, then at least go on TV and say, you know what? Yeah, we do the same thing when we have majorities. So let's be honest. I had
politics of the state.
That's right. And I was on Univision a few months back, and the young man who was interviewing me asked, I thought it was a very good question, actually. He said, well, isn't this political? And I said, yes, it is. It is political. It's 100% political, just like the map in Illinois is 100% political, just like the map in Maryland and Massachusetts. And, and that's the way it is. It's political because that's what it is. It's a political decision.
It's politics.
And that's the genius of the Supreme Court in their opinion, 6-3 opinion, was to say, hey, guys, this is your business. Don't come to us. But what amazes me about the Supreme Court, George, before we get to the next topic, what amazes me about this Supreme Court is how automatic these 6-3 opinions are.
Yeah. Right.
And you begin to sit there and you go, wait a minute, these 3 judges who always agree. I mean, it's like, well, on what basis are they saying that the Supreme Court, where's the constitutional grounds?
You got to look at what Justice Brown wrote a few decisions ago. I think it was two decisions ago, about 2 months ago, where she actually said again that the founding fathers were wrong, that the Constitution was wrong, and that it had to be corrected. And you have to kind of shake your head and go, well, in what way?
Right.
Explain to us how they were wrong and how it should be corrected, other than by politics.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've made a lot of corrections in the original Constitution, exactly. The 13th Amendment, the 14th exactly. Amendment, the 15th Amendment.
Sure wouldn't be there, but we hadn't made some already.
Right. And, the one that gave women the right to vote, that was a pretty big one.
A pretty big one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think that changes have been made, amendments have been made, and it's a better Constitution. But if you're going to change it, do it the right way. That's all I'm saying. Do it the right way. All right. Well, another huge thing happening, but before we get to the pardon of Henry Cuellar, let's jump to a related topic, because this decision by the Supreme Court opens up the entrance, if you will. That sounds kind of funny. Opens up the entrance. I don't know if that makes grammatical sense, but you know what I mean. It opens up the door to Jasmine Crockett to run for the U.S. Senate. Every indication is that she will be announcing on Monday the 8th that she's running. And, well, I just saw a poll today that has Tallarico leading Jasmine Crockett, and then number 2, and then number 3 is anyway, the fellow who ran. His name escapes me right now. Allred, is it?
Allred, yeah. Colin Allred.
Yeah, right, Colin Allred. He's number 3. So at the moment, if that poll is correct, Tallarico and Crockett would go to the runoff. Now, again, that's as of today. There were other polls before that were showing her that she was leading, but it looks like at the very least she's going to make the runoff. How is this race going to impact even Tallarico himself? You know, how is it? Is he going to have to go more to the left, or is he going to be able to take advantage of this and say, you know, I'm more of a centrist option here? Well, what do you think is going to happen, George?
Well, first of all, I think that Jasmine is going to have a very serious check of the numbers of the surveys and of polls. When people realize that she is serious, her popularity goes south, and she doesn't seem to understand that. She seems to be in a very big bubble of her own, and she just doesn't seem to be. I'm not sure who's advising her, or if anyone is advising her, but she is very, very much in a bad situation. Secondly, I think that she is going to force Tallarico, whether he likes it or not. She's going to force Tallarico more to the left. I highly doubt that he will stay in the center, or that he will move to a more moderate to a right center place in his politics, because what he wants is as many Democrat votes as he can. And she, for lack of better description, she controls the left and the far left. And so he's going to have to move to the left. If he does, that's going to cut into his popularity. So overall, I think that if Colin Allred is wise, he'll run as much to the middle and let them fight it out,
right,
as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, ultimately, the issues and ideology of the Democrats is going to come to the surface. It's got to come to the surface.
Right.
How they feel about the open border, how they feel about school choice, how they feel about the 10 Commandments, I mean, all of these things that are important to Republican and conservatives who are the dominant force in Texas. These things are not important to them. So I'm not sure. Ultimately, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And school choice is an interesting topic. Of course, we have school choice in Texas now through the vouchers, I guess. And school choice is a topic where the Democrats are really disconnected from Hispanics, and I would even argue African Americans, although that doesn't get a lot of publicity. But I would argue that if you look at the quality of schools, I mean, for example, in Jasmine Crockett's own district, there's a lot of parents in those districts who would love to get their kids out of those schools because they're not very good, public school, that is. So if she runs against school choice, basically she becomes the candidate of the teachers union, and I don't think that's a good place to be here. And I'm going to argue another point, George, and that's the topic of abortion. Abortion is still a very tough topic for the Democrats in South Texas, and they're going to have to, South Texas is changing, as you know that as well as anybody, because that's where you live. And I think abortion is one of those topics that the Democrats have sort of stayed away from it a lot. I mean, they never campaigned that hard about abortion in South Texas because, and correct me if I'm wrong, George, the Hispanic woman is very conservative when it comes to abortion. She's not a choice type of woman. She's more of a well. I remember hearing one time a Hispanic lady on TV saying that on the street interview, a Hispanic woman in South Texas saying, "What do you mean I have a choice to kill my baby? Well, what does that mean? You know, that I have a choice to kill my baby, you know?" So I think that's another topic, these cultural issues. And Jasmine Crockett is going to go full blown on that. She's going to force Tallarico and Allred to take positions. Now, Allred may want to take a more reasonable position and say, no, no, I don't want my daughter playing with guys. But it may not matter because he's not going. Maybe he might not make the top two, George. So she's going to be in the runoff. That's my prediction, whether it's number one or number two. But she's going to be in the runoff, and she's going to get a lot of money from the outside of Texas. So, do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I think she will. Again, I think that she's going to push the Democratic Party farther to the left, which is
Yes.
good in Texas. And I, for one, welcome for her to be in it. I really do.
I agree. I love it. I love it because
it's very, very entertaining.
It's going to be very entertaining, but also, George,
a crazy mouth. I mean, she's crazy. She really
is.
So it'll be very entertaining.
I agree with the entertainment factor, but I also think, George, when you have a woman like Jasmine Crockett on the ticket or on the race, it's like the Democrat Party takes off its mask and says, "This is who we really are."
Exactly.
So let's have them as they really are, not this little fake.
The other thing we haven't mentioned is the issue of restrooms.
Yes.
The issue of drag queens in with minors. I mean, there are so many things. The opposition to ICE.
Right. That's a big one, too.
Defunding of the police in the cities. I mean, one thing after another, just you tick them off, and they are unpopular in Texas.
Right.
You run
like wonder, pure speculation on my part, but you wonder if it was Allred versus Crockett, if he wouldn't have a better chance running as the more moderate figure, but it's with Tallarico in there, Allred is incredibly the one out. I think he doesn't make it, in my opinion, to the runoff. Well, let's talk about another big story, and that's this pardon of Henry Cuellar. I wrote a post about this today over at the American Thinker, where I was actually glad that he got pardoned because I do think he was targeted.
Yeah.
And just like Mayor Adams was targeted, you know, you take a position against the Biden administration, next thing you know that you're being indicted for this or that. So I was happy that President Trump came out and pardoned him because I think he was targeted. Now, there may be something wrong that he did. I'm not going to sit here and say that the guy's perfect, but I think he was targeted for opposing the Biden administration. Were you surprised, as I was, with the pardon, George?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that came out of left field.
Yeah,
I was very much in shock because there has been so much discussion in South Texas about challenging him and him being a wounded candidate. There was so much discussion about that, and he has never really been a friend of Republicans, particularly grassroots Republicans in his district. So for him to get pardoned, it shocked me.
Really?
Now,
okay.
You know, it really did. I mean, it shocked me beyond belief. I was talking to all my friends in Laredo, what's going on? They were talking to me because they didn't know. They expected me to know something. I mean, it was like suddenly the hens wake up one morning and there's a fox running around in the hen house. No.
Right.
So,
I was surprised completely as well. I didn't see that coming. You know, I always thought it could happen, but I never actually thought that it could happen. Now, what is the electoral impact? He is going to be running as a Republican, but he is going to be running in these maps. How impacted was he by the maps, or does he still have a pretty safe seat?
Well, I really do believe he's got a pretty much safe seat.
Okay.
At this point, because it has been it has been more designed for Webb County.
Okay.
The portion that went into San Antonio and north has been taken out. So he is very much a border Laredo based congressman now, which is going to serve him very, very well. He has. He has. I mean, that's where his strength is, and I just don't see who's going to beat him at this point.
Yeah, well, when they did these maps, maybe he was one Democrat they wanted to save.
Well, no, at this point, no. I mean, to me, that's an interesting thought. But
Yeah.
to me, I really do believe that the people that drew the map had every intention that he was going to lose because of the indictment.
Right. Okay.
So I certainly thought that he was going to lose, and there were two very, very strong candidates there. They still are. I think that they still are, but it'll be very, very interesting how it all plays out now.
But is he gonna remember last time he got a very tough primary?
He had a very that remains to be seen. I have not heard of anybody challenging him yet. But now,
the last time he had a very tough primary, and they almost beat him.
Yeah,
if you remember,
I would imagine that there's going to be some leftists that's going to come out now. Now that he is the one that's in the lead, and he is the one that should have the target. Now I think that the Democrats will come after him now again.
So, well, my goodness, I mean, the fact that he was pardoned by President Trump, that will mean they definitely got to try to protect him, to say the least. Yeah. Now, these the map and these districts in South Texas, there's 4 of them that are going to be in South Texas, and I believe that one is going to be in Houston, or in the Houston area. The one in the Houston area should go Republican, or I mean, that one seems to favor the Republicans. I remember from the last time that we spoke. What about the 4 on the border? Now, one of them includes, well, no, not Cuellar. It was Cuellar one of the 4 that was redrawn on the border?
It was redrawn, but not dramatically, not drastically.
Right.
Yeah, the one that I'm thinking about is 35. That's down in McAllen, Brownsville area.
Okay.
And that one is the one that Congressman Gonzalez is the head of.
So he's more vulnerable now.
Very much so. Very much.
And you've got Maida Flores, who's running there.
Maida is, I believe I think that's the one that she's running in.
And she ran a good campaign the last time. So hopefully, I think she will beat him this time.
Yeah.
And then in the others that are closer to El Paso, I don't know much about those, because there's 4.
There's 26, which is Tony
right.
Gonzalez's. And Tony Gonzalez has also been streamlined. That one runs all the way to El Paso.
Okay.
From the west end of San Antonio all the way to El Paso. That one is pretty soft. It became much more Republican than what it was. Okay. It has historically been a flip district. It has, I mean, in the 10 years or 12 years that I've been here in San Antonio, that I've been back from DC, it has gone Democrat twice and then come back to Republican twice. So it's been flipped, and the chances of it flipping now have become very, very slim.
Now, of those 4 on the border, George, do you see all 4 go? Well, maybe at least 3 out of the 4 going Republican.
3 out of the 4, definitely.
Yeah. So the one in Houston goes Republican. You think?
Well, the one in Houston is it covers North Houston City,
right,
into Harris County, and historically it was just North Houston, an area called Acres Homes,
right,
which is a black neighborhood, and that's where Green, Democrat Congressman Green,
right.
Was
number 18, right? I think it was called number 18. Right?
And he is, he's really in danger at this point because it's an extended way out. And so he's not going to have the luxury of having just Democrat black voters anymore.
Right. And then in the center, in the Austin area, there's a few changes there as well, because one Democrat has already announced that he's not running.
Yeah.
So of the 5 that are going to be created by this new map, I always expected at least 4 to go Republican, not all 5.
Yeah, there's a good chance that all 5 of them will, because the last one that you mentioned there, the one for Austin is District 24, I believe, and District 24 is a district now that encompasses. It used to encompass North San Antonio, straight up the I-35 corridor to Austin. And Austin was the dominant,
right.
and that's why they had a very liberal Democrat representing them. Now it's been cut off. It is North Austin, North parts of North San Antonio, East San Antonio, and then it goes south into rural areas of Wilson County and Karnes County. And those counties are very, very red.
Right, exactly. And if anybody wants to understand why these maps had to be redrawn, all you have to do is drive on I-35 between Austin and San Antonio, and you see the growth in those areas. That, I've driven that over the last almost 40 years that I've lived here in Texas. I've driven that stretch so many times, and it seemed like in the last 10 years, the residential boom has been unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable. For years, it was just grass and lots of cattle. You were driving on I-35, and you look at either window, it was nothing but cattle and grass. And now it's nothing but development after development after development. And I guess we can thank California for that a little bit. Really. Because a lot of those people have moved into the Austin area from California. And it seems like in the Austin area, more and more people are moving away for reasons of cost, if anything else, looking for better prices, and they go further south. So you have all these residential communities where people commute to Austin, but those are very Republican areas, and that's what helps. Well, I'm not sure how many more shows we will do before Christmas. I think next week, we'll try to do another one next week to talk a little bit about Jasmine Crockett, but we'll probably wind down a little bit here with Christmas coming up. But I always love, I've spent a couple of holidays in San Antonio, and I think it's one of the loveliest places in Texas to be at Christmas time. The lights, and those tamales are really wonderful, George. I don't know. Nobody bakes better tamales than the people in San Antonio. I got to tell you.
I went to a family event a little while ago, and I had too many of them.
Well, take care. I'm glad you made it in time to do our podcast.
Yeah.
All right, George. Have a great week. We'll probably chat again next Sunday, when we hope that we will officially have a new lineup on the Democrat side. Our friend Lady Jasmine Crockett leading off for the Democrats, and maybe she's batting cleanup for the Democrats. I'm not sure.
I can hardly wait. I mean, I think that she's so interesting. I'll say that.
Well, she is, and you almost have to wonder, how crazy it's going to be, because look, she in the time that she's been a member of Congress, she hasn't exactly shown a lot of statesmanship.
No, none whatsoever.
Yeah, so you have to wonder, what personality are we going to see now that she actually has to run in a totally different market, if you will. I mean, it's going to be very different when you run for the Senate than when you run for her district.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It'll be fun, George. It'll be fun touching base with you the next time. Thank you again for all your contributions and for your friendship, and we'll talk again next time.
Thank you very much.
All right, our good friend George Rodriguez joining us from South Texas. Always there you go. How do I get you out of here? Oh, there you are. Okay. Our good friend George Rodriguez joining us from South Texas, and always enjoying a little bit of Texas conversation. He obviously knows a great deal about all the districts, and that's why we enjoy chatting with him. But thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.